Hey guys, I just came back to retail recently after playing many variations of Classic for about 5 years now, and they are completely different games. Let's talk about retail first. The first few hours of retail, I felt very overwhelmed. I didn't really know where to go or what timeline to play in. I wanted to interact with other players along the way and also have decent queue times for dungeons. So before even starting my journey, I think I spent hours just researching where to level. All the paths led me to Warlords of Draenor, so I started there. I didn't really see a soul, and dungeon times as a DPS took forever. I don't get why they don't give you the option to queue up for all the dungeons instead of segmented out by expansions. I also wanted to try PvP out, some world PvP, but you had to wait until level 20. So eventually I got to 20, and I was able to turn War Mode on. And the first alliance I came across just one shot me. And I think this is because you have the option to level anywhere you want in the game. And when you come across an opposing faction, this leads to a high chance that your levels are miles apart. So world PvP just it doesn't really exist in retail. Eventually, I gave up on WoD and tried Dragonflight. The quests and the drops gave way more gold than WoD, and also the gear was much stronger than my heirlooms, which made me feel a bit sad for all the time and effort in the past I spent on accumulating the heirlooms. Also, I felt like I was being spoon-fed stories so much throughout the campaign, which kind of resembled Final Fantasy XIV leveling, which I'm not a big fan of, but that's a topic for another video. And retail does feel a little bit like you just follow this one quest line, like a campaign, and you're just going from like point A to B to C to D. Just it feels very linear. And in classic, you would pick up like 18 quests and then go out and finish all of them and figure out the best optimal route to approach it. And then you would try to turn all of them in at the same time for this giant rush of EXP. And it felt very rewarding that way. But anyways, I then found out about the War Within event, the Radiant Echoes. So I did that. I couldn't really kill the mobs in the event, so it led me to just following around the pack and kind of just leeching my way through. I didn't really make any gold on the journey or have any need for professions. It was a really mindless and short-lived trip to 70, which took, like after I got to the Radiant Echoes, it took only a few hours, maybe 1 or 2 hours. And I even had a bunch of fairly decent gear. It wasn't like, mythic plus rating gear, but it was fairly good. The downside though, it didn't really give me much like stuff to do in the end game of Dragonflight, but I don't really know what to do at 70 right now because everybody's just waiting for the expansion to hit, and everyone is just focused on transmogs right now. For the most part, I'm just kind of sitting in Valdrakken and queuing up to do random stuff for the sake to do stuff. I tried to farm some gold, but the market is so oversaturated that I even made more gold from the gray items than the actual leather from skinning. And yeah, this is partly because I'm at the tail end of an expansion where nobody really needs crafting mats anymore, which isn't really the case in Classic. When a new expansion is coming out, people are rushing to level up new professions, and there's a lot of activity going on before the launch of a new expansion, so that hype level is a lot different. Um, but I don't know, even if I join a guild, I really feel like I'm alone in this game. It just feels like a single player game, and maybe that'll change with the expansion if I get into like a raiding guild or something. But my experiences with Classic were vastly different. The two games are light years apart. Even the intro didn't feel overwhelming at all. Your character spawns, and right in front of you is your very first quest, and you just kind of trek along with not much thought, and you're maybe left with learning a few abilities at a time. But the game slowly becomes more engaging. The journey to 60 is incredibly difficult in comparison. There are many parts throughout the game that will deeply challenge you to the point you really think your next move through, or you call for aid and form a party to take it on together, which still never guaranteed your success. There are many elite quests that most classes cannot solo. There are areas with very dense packs of mobs that can also run away and aggro other packs of mobs. Some mobs hit really hard for not even being an elite, like the infamous pillagers in Westfall. Some of them have really bad CC that can screw you over, like, I don't know, 10-second nets or fears. Some mobs are even immune to magic elements, making it incredibly hard to deal with as a caster. And some mobs can even heal, and if you don't have a way to interrupt, like, that could be a huge problem. And it's not like retail. If you get 3 or more mobs on you in Classic, it can turn into a fight to the death, popping all of your cooldowns, where you might just run away. And the world PvP is so damn fun in Classic. I remember I was an enhanced shaman and my friend was a shadow priest, and we decided to fight every single alliance on the way to 60. If you haven't leveled this way before, you are really missing out. It made the adventure to 60 just so damn fun and will forever be one of my favorite leveling experience I've ever had. Sometimes full-on wars would break out of varying levels and classes, and like very rarely, eventually somebody would get sour and hop on their main. So you hop on your main, and now there's an epic battle in like shimmering flats for absolutely no reason at all other than having fun. There really is a difference between PvPing for currency and honor and gear, and PvPing because it's personal. There are also some very intense quests in Classic. For example, the .5 tier quest chain, which took me over a week to complete and over 1,200 gold. But it was also one of the most rewarding and gratifying experiences of my entire 20 years playing WoW. I had to group up for almost every part of the chain. One part even required a 40-man raid in Silithus, while there was another 40-man alliance raid that we had to fight with for about 4 hours straight until we finally were able to summon the Duke of Cinders. I learned so much about the world and what some items and NPCs were for, and things that really felt like a secret that a very few players knew about. And the story is not really present in Classic like it is in retail. I remember playing with a friend almost like 20 years ago who had read all the books, and we would pass zones or do quests, and every once in a while he would tell me a little bit of the lore of that NPC or that quest or that zone. Something about this really was just so damn cool compared to like in-game narratives and RP. You also had to figure out world buffs in the game, which made you go all over the world, into dungeons, and even in front of the opposing factions' doorsteps to get prepared for next week's raid. And in the current Classic, there is a Chrono Boon. So when it was time to raid, you would unboon those buffs and drink 15 consumables, and you felt like an effing god. You felt like Goku building a goddamn spirit bomb for 7 episodes, and he finally got to release that shit. Classic had depth. There was joy in discovery, teamwork, and perseverance. Because all of this and much more, people were forced to work together, and this wasn't cross-server. Your reputation actually meant something to the community. And because of all the difficult challenges on the journey to 60, people were much more likely to help each other out because they remember what the struggle was like for them at one point. And I don't want you guys to sit there and think I'm just bashing on retail. I do love both of them. What I love about retail is that the rotations feel clean. You always have something to do while in combat. You are thinking about DPS while also providing utility. You are also thinking about your positioning and when to use defensives. I remember retail having a much more challenging endgame, where Classic is much more of a front end approach with an intense leveling experience. I am looking forward to the War Within, and if you guys have any memories or input, maybe great times you had in either retail or Classic, please share with us down below. Let us know some of the best moments you guys had. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe, and thank you guys very much.